Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. MTL Sports Podcast, episode 68. We got a doozy of a episode for you. NFL Divisional Round just wrapped up, concluded. What a hell of a weekend for football. We're going to recap that coming up next. Plus, we got some rapid fire, just like we said, guys. We hung out with Lamar Mason. Our Patriots had a big game on Saturday. We'll tell you how that went. Plus, it was a big UFC fight night pay-per-view. We'll go over the fights. Yours truly, Lawrence, will go over some of the big fights, big takeaways from that night, and much more. So please stay tuned. Some NFL Divisional Round. The game's on Saturday and Sunday, so I guess we'll start with the games on Saturday. First up, we watched this game at B-Dubs, even though it was a lackluster experience at B-Dubs for a multitude of reasons. But we watched the game, all right? Texans, Ravens playing in Baltimore. It's a little chilly there. Snow, icy, all that good stuff. Lawrence, what are your takeaways from this game?
Oh, dude, there was so much happening at B-Dubs. Dude, I missed half the freaking first half. The only thing I remember about the first half was the punt return for a touchdown. And oddly enough, I thought the Texans were going to hang in there a lot better based on the first half. Things happen. Team forgets how to play in the fourth, but for the most part, that little regrouping stage we had after B-Dubs, everyone went their separate ways and came back together. I did end up watching the fourth quarter, but from my angle of the fourth quarter, it wasn't much to write home about either. Basically, what happened? The Texans came out, and the Texans came out well. They were punching. They were punching above their weight. They were doing their best to stay in there. At the end of the day, when the other team can have basically three guys to rush for over 200 yards, and you can't even get above 40 altogether, it's just not going to be a good day. It was just one of the. It was a time in which the Texans, at multiple points in this season, you could tell they were just a little bit ahead of the schedule in which they thought they were going to be on. And this was just a fine case of a game in which one team was prepared to be playing for an AFC championship game, and the other team was probably just a year or two ahead of the schedule, but playing good football. But then the quality in which they had on the field couldn't be matched. There was production from all Raven players on offense in terms of pass game. It's not like Lamar had a doozy of a game. He threw for only 152, but why does it matter when he can run for 100 yards as well?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I don't know. I'll ask you this. Do you think the Texans, injuries just, piled up enough to the fact that, okay, they played good against the Browns. Browns had a pretty good defense as well, top 5, but you run into another top 5 defense second week in a row. You think the injuries caught up with them?
I mean, you could have said the same thing about the Browns against the Texans. The Browns had a lot of injuries going into that game as well. I mean, it's just basically how you play with those injuries. I just think one team played better with their injuries than the other, which would be a different game altogether. But, the Bills had a lot of injuries throughout the season, and they were able to stay within 3 points. The Chiefs also lead in that game at multiple times, but yeah, I would say it was also that. But I just think it was the depth. I just think it was, it's a rookie quarterback, it's a rookie head coach. Basically, you're going to hear that team. They're going to see rookie and young all written all over that team. And this is the big time. It's divisional round. The moment early, they pretended like it wasn't that big, but in my opinion, I think what happened, they went into halftime, and I think that moment caught up to them. And without all the adrenaline, without all that, the early jitters out of the way, I just think the mid game jitters of, yeah, we can win this one, like we're in it. And then you get slapped in the face real quick right after halftime. And you just continue not to, drive the ball well. The defense just can't stop them on the running game at all in the slightest. I think all those things just culminate into the back just finally giving out. I just think the Texans, which is unfortunate for a team in this case, I just think the Texans were just 1 year too early, which I also think is going to be bad for them going in the future. Just because, next year they're going to have to play all the good teams. They're going to have to play all the number ones around the league. You're going to have to play all the number one teams. And if you weren't ready now and you had the advantage of playing all the, bad teams, the number fours across the league, and now you're going to have to step up your game and play all the number ones, I think we're going to label this Texans team next year as we're going to be like, oh, they're in a sophomore slump. I don't know if that's really going to be the case. I think it's going to be, the Texans are going to be like decent, but they're going to be just as good as they were this year. I just think that the competition in which they play is going to be better. And I have an idea in which the Texans 2 years from now are scaring people again. I just feel like it was just a little too early. I think it's okay though, because I think CJ Stroud, at least he got this out of the way in his rookie season. At least he got the big jitters of the big playoff game out of his. He knows how to play well in one. Now he knows what it feels like to play bad in one.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're hit it right on the nail. Like, they're about a year, maybe 2 years out from really actually being able to compete against anyone in the playoffs. And they had a hell of a run at one point. We didn't know if they would make it. They had a little slump, but then they strung some wins together, had some help by Jacksonville. But ultimately they made it. They're a young team, like you said. Average age, I think, is like 24. So it's pretty impressive. A lot of young guys on there, led by Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. Those guys played well. I just think that my big takeaway before the game was just, hey, they have a puncher's chance if they can protect Stroud, but Stroud obviously didn't have that good of a game. He didn't have any sacks, but he was definitely pressured a lot. Had to get rid of the ball quickly. You can tell his receivers didn't really, they didn't really have any yards like that. So, from what I saw, it was just mainly quick throws, screens, little like swing passes, either side of the either side of the field. So, shout out to them. But the Ravens, they're just a complete team. They're if you can run for 200 yards, like you said, that's just all the time of possession there. And then they just eat the clock away, score when they can. They can't score, they're going to kick field goals. It's just tough to be a team that's firing on all cylinders. Great game. Not so much in the fourth, but they definitely had a chance if they would have just hung in there a little bit longer and not fall apart. But
you just got to look at the difference in the team. Like, okay, how many years now has Baltimore been trying to get this going in order to win some playoff games and concession in order to make it to the big dance? And this was
been a couple of years, yeah.
And this is Houston's first attempt. So I just think that you can tell the difference in the team makeup. One team has been here, has been at the high point, and has been at the very low point. So I just feel like at this point in time, I think Lamar's on a mission, which I think makes Lamar a little dangerous. But honestly, dear Lamar, dude, he got made fun of for what? I don't know, 3 years now, 4 years now? That's how long he's been? 4 or 5 years now? He's been made fun of for getting to the playoffs and immediately losing, getting to the playoffs, winning one game against a bad team, then immediately getting killed. Like Lamar wanted it, and this was no offense to the Texans, but you were an easy opponent to take it away from.
Yeah, for sure. The Ravens were supposed to win this game. That was the whole point. The spread said it itself, 9.5. If you're the Ravens, you got to win this game. And they did so impressively, but I think you're right. Lamar is on mission. We'll see how he fares next week. Up next, I think this was probably my second favorite game of the whole divisional weekend. Packers, 49ers, one hell of a game. Jordan Love made a mistake late throwing that pick. That sealed the deal. Otherwise, it was looking scary for the 49ers because Brock Purdy did not play well. Debo was out. And we kind of seen a trend through the season where if Brock Purdy doesn't have all of his weapons, he kind of regresses a little bit. I'm not going to say he's going to full on regress, but he definitely regresses a tad bit. You can see in his stats, 23 of 39. Accuracy wasn't there when he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks all season. So what were your takeaways from this game?
I mean, I think my biggest takeaway was, they were supposed to be, in this game, but also they were supposed to put it away. And I find it a little concerning how they were never able to, ever really pull it away, take it over. In my real opinion, if I'm the Lions, I have to be feeling incredibly energetic about the upcoming game. Because if anything, all you've proven is that the 49ers are extremely beatable. And when they went on that 3-game losing streak earlier in the season, they were without what do you call it? Debo Samuel.
Yep.
And the chances they're out at him again are, I'm not going to say high, but the chances are there.
It's apparently Shefty said 50-50 shot he plays. So, I mean, that's pretty.
I mean, look, this is a time for Purdy to get his money. Does he deserve some money? Yeah, probably. He's kind of already been in an NFC Championship game, and other people still have not. But this is also a time for the rest of the team to step up in place of others. The team up and down is more advanced than the Lions. It's more advanced than the Packers. But I just think the coaching, I don't know what it is, but I think maybe it's because they were both at the Commanders at one point. I think they were actually the Redskins at that time. Maybe they just know each other really well.
Redskins.
So can't really.
They were both on the Falcons as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to adjust when the other guy knows what you want to do. But I just think LaFleur coached a better game. At the end of the day, I think Kyle Shanahan just had better players than LaFleur.
Better team for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think next week, I mean, if there's a 50-50 chance that he plays, obviously he's probably leaning more towards play, but still, these other guys got to step up. I mean, Ayuk didn't have that good of a game. Kittle stepped up in a big way, made some big catches, but we got to get another big game from Jennings, or not we, but I'm talking about the 49ers. So the big game out of Jennings. Ayuk has to step up. Some of these other guys. But it was just surprising. Jordan Love just started where he left off. I know he had 2 picks. That one late, I don't really count because that was just desperation. But, he played well, rushed well. And I think the 49ers' biggest issue is stopping the run as well. I think teams who have successfully run against them have had their number or at least put them in danger of losing. AKA, Baltimore, AKA Cincy, some of these other teams. So the Lions, they can definitely run the ball. The offensive line is pretty talented, and I'm not trying to get too far ahead, but they will definitely be looking at next week, licking their lips, licking their chops, thinking, hey, they're weakened a little bit. We definitely, if we cross our T's and dot our I's, we definitely can walk away with a W and make their way to the Super Bowl. But I think Green Bay played as well as they could. They're dealing with injuries as well. No Dylan. Watson, I still don't think it's 100%. He still only had 1 catch, and when he caught the ball, he wasn't moving as fast as he usually does. So, they're banged up, and overall the talent level there is a talent disparity. I think just the coaching wise is what kept Packers in the game. For a good chunk of it, they were in command, and San Fran just pulled it out late. But one hell of a performance from McCaffrey, like 2 tubs, running the ball, catching the ball. This man was doing everything, even blocking when he needed to block. It's just that Purdy, like I said, he just regresses when Debo's just not playing, and it's very noticeable. It's not like a here or there thing. Is those 3 games really stood out, and now in this game it stood out as well. He just didn't play as well, so we'll see how he does next week. Sunday.
Sure to do. Yep.
Sunday. First game Sunday. Buccaneers Lions. I watched this one at MGM National Harbor. Shout out to them. Actually, no, don't shout out to them because there's only 2 places to watch the game, and one of them, Tap Sports Bar, is a $75 minimum just to get a table, which I was not doing. I'm not gonna pay $75 just for a tap. That's insane. I don't even eat or drink that much. But this was a great game as well. Back and forth. I'll let you go first, Lawrence. What do you feel like highlights, takeaways from this game?
I think it was a good back and forth, scrappy fight until about the third quarter. Then the Lions put it on them. I think they did well. And I'm talking about Tampa Bay here. I think they did well at the end, giving them a little of a scare. Making a game of it, not going down. I guess in depressing fashion, but at the end of the day, they didn't get the job done. However, what can be said about it? Simply put, Tampa Bay, I don't know, at the moment got a little too big for them or what. But honestly, if Mike Evans had been catching those balls a little bit better in the first half, I don't know. We might be talking about something different right now. But Mike Evans, he came to play at the very end when it mattered.
Yep.
Was it a little too late? Unfortunately, yes. But at the end of the day, I think it was a good game. I think the problem with the game, like we're going to say for a lot of these, is one team was just a little bit better than the other. I think home field advantage was a major key for the Lions. I think that was a huge advantage, and I think that's what they used. I think they used it amazingly. To be fair, you knew they would. Their home fans haven't seen a playoff game in years, ages, like decades. Like they were gonna go all core, all balls to the wall. Like everything was coming out for these games. So, for me, I just think that one team, like you saw in the first game for the Lions, you just had one team's players made plays at important times, and the other team's players just could not replicate that same magic. The same can be said for the next game and the Bills game. Some people just could not make magic happen when it mattered, and others could. But I think that was the major draw from this game was, one team just had guys make plays when it mattered and when it had to be done. The other team, unfortunately, did not get the same benefit.
Yeah, you're right. And, I think it comes down to turnovers, right? Baker, 2 picks. I know the last pick at the end of the game to seal their fate, unfortunately. But that one pick really was pretty much the difference. But Baker had a good game overall. I feel like keeping mistakes to a minimum. He didn't regress at all. Kept his team in position, like you said, all the way throughout until some funky things happened in the fourth. They just didn't capitalize on like 2 or 3 drives. They punted the ball. But shout out to the Lions. They played well. NFC Championship game, first one in a very, very long time. We finally saw the shift towards Gibbs because this kid was unstoppable. Whether it was catching the ball, running the ball, Bucks couldn't handle him. So it was good to see him get unleashed. David Montgomery just for whatever reason, didn't have a good game. I think probably maybe the Bucs game plan for him more so than Gibbs because Montgomery's kind of been the go-to for the majority of the season. But, St. Brown played well. Laporta played well as always, making big catches for Jared Goff. And the offensive line just keeps playing well. Like, they get good yards per carry, giving Jared Goff time to throw the ball. And even when there is pressure, Ben Johnson, I think the offensive coordinator for the Lions, he schemes it up well enough so that Jared Goff doesn't have to make too hard of decisions. That's kind of been his, like his Achilles heel in the past, right? When he was with the Rams, making good decisions. He's under pressure. He's not really a good decision maker. So they do a good job scheming that stuff up. And for the Tampa Bay, Baker, like I said, played well. Mike Evans had a hell of a game. Just 12 targets, probably if he would have caught a couple, might have changed the game. Chris Godwin didn't really show up, but I don't know if that's more so Mike Evans just eating more or if they kind of just took him away and said, hey, we don't want Mike Evans to beat us or not. Not too sure, but that's what it kind of seemed like. Tampa Bay's defense played okay, but, I mean, that Lions offense is pretty much, when they're rolling, they're rolling. They're pretty much unstoppable, so I can't put too much blame on Todd Bowles and the defense. They did just as well as you could have asked, honestly. And I think Baker played his way into, I would say, like a Daniel Jones type contract, right? Danny Dimes gets what, $40 million? I think Baker's going to get at least $40 million.
I think he's at least going to get it. He's going to get something nice from the Buccaneers. I mean, he took him to a playoff game, and it's unfortunate he lost in his playoff game, but he didn't get. I wouldn't say he got outshined or dominated in his playoff game. So
no,
I think that's the biggest kicker is you got us there, and at no point in time in the playoffs did it look like it was too big for you.
Yeah, I think it's a big takeaway. I think at least for a couple more years, he's definitely the go-to, their go-to guy in Tampa. I think the payoff, it paid off. The gamble paid off. So shout out to them. Shout out to Baker. Got you a nice bag. Last game of the weekend. This was one hell of a game, honestly. And I just want to preface this by saying, in no way, shape, or form is this loss on Josh Allen. The kicker had one job, and it's to make a 43-yard field goal, and it just did not go through. I don't know what the hell. I mean, it was on the hash that he liked.
44 yards, it's not even that bad.
It's not even that bad.
It was a little windy, but when you watch the kick go up, there was barely any wind going at that moment.
Yeah, so I'm just going to preface this. This was not Josh Allen. Josh Allen had a hell of a game. Even though the yards don't look there, the dude was rushing. He had 2 scrambles for a touchdown. I mean, he was Superman. He didn't revert to Josh Allen things, kept took care of the ball, no fumbles, no sacks. He did everything that you could have asked, man. So this is not on him. So what do you think?
What got me feeling weird was the slander in which, I watched it today. Stephen A. and Shannon, giving it to they. I thought Dan Orlovsky was correct when he said that he didn't say that Josh Allen played spectacular. He said Josh Allen played great. I think that is a completely fair and reasonable thing to say about what Josh Allen did on the field. Did I think Josh Allen played spectacular? No, because he didn't win. If you play spectacular, you won. But did he play great? Dude, his team was in the game with barely any time left. He couldn't. His best wide receiver, who is a diva clown at this point, can't catch a 65-yard dime. I think Josh Allen had 180 something yards. If you catch that ball, he's over. Okay, 186. You catch that ball, he's over 240. He's got over 240 passing yards. And you catch that ball. But you let it go right through your hands. You let it go right through your hands.
And what about the other one? He threw like another 60 yards to what? Was it Ty Johnson or was it Sherfield? One of those kids.
It was Sherfield, but I'm less mad at Sherfield because he's kind of younger and he's also not the he's not the guy,
He's not the star. He's not the bona fide number one. A guy that any team would want. Yeah, I get that part.
And then they were giving crap to Josh Allen. Same guys giving crap to Josh Allen for not making the pass to Shakir when he was running across the middle, wide open in the end zone. Yeah, fair. You're giving him crap for it, but if you watch the same freaking play, his offensive lineman is bumping into him while Chris Jones is absolutely just bulldozing him into him. Like, that's not on Josh Allen. That's more commend to Chris Jones for making an amazing play. That's not Josh Allen. That's Chris Jones. That's two different things. You can't fault Josh Allen for Chris Jones just having an amazing play. You have to give all the props to Chris Jones, and you don't crap on Josh Allen. That you just can't. But I mean, some things that got me triggered were I thought the refs did okay. I'm not going to sit here and say the refs did amazing, but there were like 3 times in that game in which you could say unnecessary roughness on the quarterback. Like when Josh Allen did the slide and those 2 dudes still collided on him, and then you saw Josh Allen's hand bleeding after it. Dude, his hand bled. Well, he was down. He slid. The guy threw himself at him after he had already slid. After. It wasn't even like during the slide or anything. He did it afterward. No flag. The one time where Josh Allen ran the ball to the left, they blew the whistle. Josh Allen clearly gave up. Like, he was just standing straight up. And the guy
still pushing him back.
They're still pushing him back, and then they still slammed him to the ground. How is there not a flag on that? Now, that was the one that really got, what'd you call it? Tony Romo heated. Because Tony Romo even asked how that wasn't a flag. And
I think on both times, Tony Romo was like, "How is that not a flag, Gene?" And Gene's like, I think you're right, but I think they're just, I don't know what they're thinking right now."
I get it. They were trying to let them play. And for the most part, they did let them play. But there's just certain times where you don't just let them play. Like, those are two very flagrant fouls on Josh that I'm sorry, not sorry, but if the same thing had been done to done to Pat, we would have seen him crying. We would have seen them throw all the flags on it. And then the pass interference, that they eventually had to punt it again, but that pass interference
that came in late. They came in 10 seconds after the play.
And then they reviewed it, and then Tony Romo was literally explaining how the ball hasn't even left his hands yet, and they're not 5 yards down the field. So you're within 5 yards, so it can't be illegal contact, and the ball hasn't left his hand, so it can't be pass interference. So how is there a flag? Tony Romo literally explained that, and I just thought that was an interesting one because they didn't even ask Gene Steratore or anything. Tony Romo literally just, I don't know if he read from the rule book, but Tony Romo literally explained how one and the other could not be called. So how are you going to call pass interference? Those were 3 things that went against the Bills. I'm sure if I really tried, I could find some things that went against the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure I could. But at the end of the day, those were some major ones. But the most major ones for me were the 2 unnecessary roughnesses that could have been called on Josh Allen that just never were. And I just think that's so annoying. But there was a little, I think it was like a tweet I read or something that there was talks that was it Travis Kelce might retire at the end of the season, and I remember reading that while also having all my Bills bets in, and I was like, well, they're destined to lose this one. I just kind of read the writing on the wall when I read that tweet, and I swear, if they win the big dance and then Kelce retires, I might know that was scripted.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of problems. I mean, it was a great game. I have a lot of problems with this game. Number one, I think the after effect today, all of this critique, and I'm usually with, Stephen A. and Shannon most of the time when they, recap on Mondays, but today was just flagrant bashing of Josh Allen just for clicks. It's obvious that, obviously they bashed the Cowboys for clicks, and I think this is just another thing where they're going to bash Josh Allen for clicks. Obviously, Josh Allen had a great game. The stats don't tell the whole story here. 186 doesn't contextualize the whole game. He was in control of the game. They ate the clock up. Even though they were meticulously going up and down the field, they did that for a reason. They didn't want to give the Chiefs any extra time, any more time than they needed. Even though the Chiefs' offense this year has been hit or miss. Okay, last game they were a hit, and the
The
Chiefs have
whole
already
game they
had.
were hitting.
And when they came out hitting, so it was pretty obvious that, hey, okay, the offense is starting to click a little bit. We don't want to give them any more possession than is necessary. So I thought that was really smart of them, just driving down the field. Yeah, they didn't get big chunk plays, but who cares? If you can limit them, I think that's equally as good. All right. And then the chunk plays that they could have had, like you said, Diggs, he dropped one that hit his hands. Why are we not bashing Diggs? And we've been bashing the Chiefs receivers for weeks now about dropping passes. We bashed Travis Kelce last week for dropping 3 passes. How come when it comes to this game, everyone wants to bash Josh Allen for not rising in the moment, right?
Yep.
But Diggs dropped like a 50-yard pass, hit him in his hands. Any other time we would say, hey, hit you in your hands, you got to catch it. I haven't heard one national media guy talk about how Diggs didn't show up today.
I think the only one that did was Dan Orlowski, and then they gave him crap for talking
they gave him crap
Diggs.
about it. Yeah, so Dano, he's usually wrong, but today he was right, even though he is a Josh Allen fanboy. He was definitely in the right today. I'm sorry to say, but Onk and Stephen A were just baiting for clicks. And then Stephen A wants to throw out this ridiculous stat, Josh Allen had 86 yards of passing that came from throws behind the line of scrimmage. Bro, that's what they gave up, so that's what they took. And like I said, they were trying to eat the clock away, so they didn't care how they moved the ball up and down the field. If you want to give them space, give them cushion, of course they're going to throw more screens and get 5-6 plays here and there, 5-6 yards here and there. Like, come on, bro, why are you throwing that dumbass stat? And then so the casuals out there are like, oh, Stephen A's cooking. It's like, no, bro, that stupid stat doesn't mean anything. What it came down to, like I said, this guy, Tyler Bass, who they just paid, like I told you off camera before we started, they paid this dude like 4 years, like what, $20-something million
21 million
after last season, just so he can make his field goals, right? He gets a 44-yard field goal. Josh Allen, yeah, he probably could have gave him a little extra couple yards. Maybe he could have got him to like 35, 36. But hey, you got to work with what you're given, right? They pay you the big bucks for a reason, and you miss. This game was destined for overtime. It was destined for overtime, and he shanked it. So for me, this game is now on Josh Allen. I don't think that's not fair at all. I mean, we'll see. On the Chiefs side, Mahomes played great, ran the ball well, passed the ball well. No drops. I don't think anyone dropped the ball.
I think they had one recorded drop. I remember that. They had one whole drop.
I guess it was Kelce because he had 6 targets. Oh no, that doesn't count.
I don't know if it's based on target. I just remember someone dropped the ball at one point. And we obviously don't count them. I don't think McCole Hardman was a pass. I think it was a run, but obviously we don't count the McCole Hardman one. But no, I'm pretty sure that someone dropped one ball. But I remember seeing Dan Orlowski's take, and Dan Orlowski showed the evidence of which the Bills had 4 drop balls and the Chiefs had 1. When all season the Chiefs had been the one dropping balls every other game. This just happened to be the game in which the Bills decided we're going to drop all the balls. And I just think the most important, buzz killed to the Bills was the fact that, unfortunately, Shakir and Dalton Kincaid were the only wide receivers they had that were playing at high levels. James Cook, obviously he's a running back, but he dropped a bad one that should have been a touchdown. He dropped a guaranteed touchdown. Stephon Diggs couldn't. I mean, he had 8 targets and 3 catches. I do remember one of them. Not Lamar. Josh Allen almost got him murdered. So he did take a smart play on that one.
Yeah.
But the other ones, like, no. So 4 out of those 5 were on you pretty much, and I know at least 3 of them were on him. And I remember at least 2 of them hitting him straight in the dead on in the hands. But him losing Shakir for probably, what was it, about a drive and a half? Like,
it was like, it was 2 drives or so.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that it hurt him because as soon as Shakir was gone, the only thing he had to play with was Dalton Kincaid, and he kept throwing those little tight end screens to Kincaid. And I mean, I'm sorry, but each time he threw those screens, they made like 8-7 yards. Okay, if I can get 7 yards on a little screen on first down, I'm gonna do it. All I gotta do is I have 3 more downs because I'm probably gonna go for it on fourth. I got 3 more downs to get 3 yards. I can work with that. I got to get 1 yard down. I'll take 7 yards on the first down. So, like, yeah, that's one of those things. Like, okay, but that was thrown behind the scrimmage. Okay, sorry they played off coverage on that one play. So as soon as he gets the ball, he can just go 4 yards straight ahead, untouched. And then as soon as some guy's touching him 5 yards into it, he can bulldoze him on just a little bit enough just to get 2 extra yards. Like, you take what you're given, and that's the whole thing about lemons with lemonades.
Couldn't agree more. I think another big sticking point was the fumble. Well, that fourth down, they tried to go for, which was awful with what's that kid's name? Hamlin. That didn't turn out well. Then they gave the ball back to the Chiefs. The Chiefs drive all the way down, and then Hardman fumbles in the end zone. How do we feel about that whole touchback scenario? Do you feel like I know it's a big thing on Twitter. People are like, "This is a stupid rule." How do you feel about it?
I also agree it's a stupid rule. I don't understand why if the ball rolls forward. I thought at one point in time they had a rule in which if a fumble goes forward and the team who had the ball recovers it, you take it where the fumble happened. Why can't that not be the same thing? You know, the ball rolls out of the end zone, no one recovered it, so it should go back to whoever had the ball to begin with, back where they lost the ball at. I think that one makes a little bit more sense. I think we've seen a lot of teams, mainly the one that comes out to mind, to me, the biggest, is that Baker Mayfield, that Browns game in which one of his wide receivers fumbled the ball out of the end zone on the Chiefs. I mean, that was a big moment, and that also is a backbreaker, and that one was also really dumb. Because I just don't like the touchback rule. I think it's dumb. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't like it. But I thought according to what the rule in which they always speak now, I thought that was correct. His butt obviously wasn't on the ground. But for the punt, I think it was they showed on the screen in which the Chiefs only had 10 guys on the field.
So they check to it, yeah.
So they check to it and they try to run it. I don't know. I kind of agree with the play once I saw that there was only 10 guys on the field. Because if they're going to give you 10 and you get basically a 10 on 10, you kind of like those odds rather than actually it wouldn't be 10 on 10. Sorry, it'd be 10 on 9 because the punt returner's way in the back. So if it's a 10 on 9, you kind of have to like your odds a little bit. And especially they got 2 gunners out to the side ready to run down the field. So what do you got? It's 7 on 9, 7 on 8. I mean, you're giving me these kind of odds here. I kind of like them. But it just seemed like the rest of the team wasn't ready for it. Like none of the team was ready for it. Which I don't know if I don't know if that should go on the head coach, or if that should go on his team not being prepared for it, or why are you not preparing your team well enough for it? Like all these things just come to my head when you discuss that kind of thing. Like who actually is in fault of that? Because to me, that was a good adjustment. If I see that they're down a man and I'm up a man, well, I'm going to take those odds every day. But I also got to know, is my team even ready to run that thing? Which it did not seem like they were ready to run that thing.
Nah, I think they weren't ready, but I understand the whole concept. Like, if they're down a guy, why not? Right? Why not run it? But there has to be a different variation. I don't know why they try to run up the middle. Why didn't they just like try to sweep it, like run off tackle and just pull the extra guy, like the other guy that's on the side?
Plays.
Yeah.
Because there were so many better plays to run than that one they did, which I also understood why they didn't punt it. Because if you watch the other punts in that game, that punter obviously was hurt. He's hurt from last week.
Yeah.
So he's not punting the ball very well. It's not like you're going to gain a whole lot either. And I also understand, you know, if I give the Chiefs the ball back, I don't want to give them the ball back with more field to go down, because regardless, they're probably going to get a field goal anyways. I'd rather have them kill less time, because at the end of the day, my goal is to hold them to a field goal. Doesn't matter where they start at. I'd rather them waste less time and get the field goal that they're probably going to get anyways. Not trying to poop on their defense or anything, but you just kind of always have it in the back of your mind that Patrick Mahomes will do those things to you.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point, actually. I mean, it's the fourth quarter. That's when he shines the brightest. It was inevitable, most likely, that he was going to get a field goal at least. So I think it was a fair play call. For the touchback, I'm on the fence about it. I understand why the rule is the way it is. I think, for modern NFL, I think it needs to be adjusted, right? I think instead of a touchback, I think there's two different ways you go about it, right? Like, instead of a touchback, all right, maybe you lose it down and we'll put you back at, I don't know, the 20 or something, like just outside the red zone. Or you just lose a possession. You just lose it down. So if it was second down, you go to third down, you don't get or if it was second down, you don't get a third down, you get a fourth down, or anything like that. I feel like those are fair, but because it's like a boneheaded play almost. Like, bro, you really gonna fumble in the end zone out of bounds? Like, that's a boneheaded play. Like, you deserve to be penalized. I feel like I don't feel like this is just like a oopsie daisy type of thing. Like, if you manage to do that, that's pretty boneheaded, honestly.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, it's also just unfortunate when it happens because all the ball has to do is just touch the plane and then you're good to go. It's just those odd moments in which you fumble it at the 2-yard line and it goes forward out of bounds through the end zone and you just get screwed. But if that ball gets knocked out of your hands and it goes out of the end zone at the 1-yard line, then you did no wrong at that point.
Yeah, 100%. So the Chiefs will play the Ravens on Sunday. I think they're the later of the two games. And so the Lions will play the 49ers. I believe they're the first game. They're going to play in San Fran, I believe, Levi Stadium. So another week of football. We got, we're like 3 weeks away from Super Bowl at this point. So only a couple more weeks of NFL action here. We'll still cover, of course, but just want to let you guys know. But coming up next, we have Rapid Fire. We're back. Stay tuned. We're going to start some Rapid Fire. First up, we're going to cover some college basketball. More importantly, our George Mason Patriots. We were live on the scene Saturday, witnessing them play St. Bonnie's. It was actually one hell of a game. I think it was back and forth, and then at some point, St. Bonnie's took the lead. We started sweating a little bit, but Mason has been playing some phenomenal defense. This season for the most part. Our new coach is defensive minded. I forgot the guy's name, but he was defensive.
Tony Sky.
He was defensive coordinator for Ohio State and Maryland.
Yeah, he was the assistant head coach for both of them.
Yeah.
But I think he was a defensive kind of mindset of guy. But he was on the Mason 2006 Amazing Run team. So I think that's what brought him home, obviously, and what brought them to bring him back.
Yeah, one hell of a game. Mason made a good run at the end, played some good defense, made some shots. Because St. Bonnie's, they take the lead like probably, halfway through that second half. So it started to get a little scary. What were your takeaways from this game?
My biggest takeaway from this game was just I fondly enjoyed the fact that the Mason Patriots, not to say that they bend over and they just give in when the pressure gets too big, but I mean, we watched them go on a 3-game losing streak, to which they did lose to VCU, Richmond, and George Washington. And looking at it right now, based on who those teams have played, how they square up so far in the A10, I can tell you that VCU is nothing that amazing. So that was a bad loss, and we lost it at home. I'm not fully sold on Richmond, but Richmond is actually doing well in the A10, and they're like, I don't know, they're another top 4 in the A10. And at the end of the day, George Washington's also pretty much top 4 in the A10. So you got to also look at it on both ways. Yeah, those are unfortunate bad losses to both those teams. But at the end of the day, Richmond Spiders are 5-0, like your thing just pulled up. I'm less mad at the Richmond Spiders loss, but the VCU and George Washington ones, those are the ones that you just kind of have to look at, and you got to kind of say, like, you just can't lose those. And the worst part is the way we lost to VCU. Basically, the way we lost to VCU was they big brothered us. We're the little brother in Virginia to them. They came into our house and beat us up and smacked us around. We played to their level, and we didn't make them play to our level. Because honestly, this year Mason is better than them. We're better on the defensive end. We have better playmakers than they do. And regardless of everything that we've done all season, we allowed them to control us, and we played to them. And at the end of the day, I just believe that that's pretty much, they just big brothered us. Like I said, they just bullied us to do what they wanted, and we just folded like it was nothing. And I think that's the biggest. I don't want to say, F you to all the fans of George Mason and everything, but like that's how Mason made us feel. Because every year they do good outside the A10, and as soon as the A10 starts, they fall apart.
Yeah, we would like to start it better off in conference play. Had those 3 losses really set us back. Like I said, before the game, I was like, this is a must win because we can't go down in the conference 2-4. It's not going to be a good look if we looking to make a run in the conference. Because conference play is always tough, but with a team this talented, even though they're kind of young, they definitely can make some noise. And it's at home, and I don't think we have too many home games left. The next home game is what, Saturday for homecoming?
Mm-hmm.
Against Rhode Island. We will be there again. So if you're local, come see us. Come holler at us. Little meet and greet, I guess. We will probably be a little trash, but we'll still be coherent. And yeah, all that good stuff. You want to move on to UFC?
I mean, I love some UFC, man. Come on, hit me with the UFC. I told everyone going into that fight, Duplessis. I want everyone to know who won that fight. Duplessis. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'll say it again. You're welcome.
He did say to take Duplessis. It was a great fight. Definitely. I don't know. Some of the fights beforehand was just a little iffy. I know we were kind of doing other things while we were watching the fight. We were watching the game as well. And then when the game went off, we kind of watched some of those main card fights. But definitely the main event was the fight of the night, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about some of those fights before, but I was never as drawn into them as I was basically up until the Raquel Pennington fight. She had a good I don't know what to say that, but Pennington, she did really good. She fought hard. I mean, pretty much all you have to do is look at that fight and say, dang, look at the other girl. And you'll realize that Pennington, squarely beat her. I don't know what it was for Canadians last night. They were fighting in Toronto, and for some reason, Canadians couldn't win pretty much the whole night. Only a few of them won. But honestly, I've heard a lot of people say that Strickland should have won. We had people sitting there watching with us who bet on Strickland, who didn't believe that Strickland won. So I don't know if that was just the crowd we were with. Too many people thought Duplessis won, but I thought it was a good fight for what it was. Would I have loved to watch more takedowns and ground and pounds and them going straight up at each other for it? Yes, obviously you probably would want that one. But all in all, I feel like Duplessis, in my opinion, I think Duplessis' fault is if he was champion. And I think that's the problem with Strickland. Sean Strickland just doesn't feel champion. Like, I don't know how other way to put it. I feel like he just had a really good fight against Adesanya, and I also just think that I think Adesanya at this point in his career, I mean, dude, the dude won for so many fights in a row. I just kind of get the feeling that that Adesanya needed a wake up call and needed a little slap back down to earth, in which he got, because he was just he was just acting like fights were meaningless, like he could just walk in there and beat anyone up every fight every night. And sorry, not sorry, that's just not how UFC works. All these guys are training their hardest. You got to train just as hard back, and if you're not going to train and you're going to act like you can just roll everyone, then obviously you don't know what you're in for.
Yeah, Izzy definitely, like you said, he was on a run, bro. Like, it definitely takes a toll on your body. I understand why, he lost a couple times, and he's taking a break right now. So I completely understand. Don't fault him one bit for wanting to take a little break, because that takes a toll on your body. But this was a great fight. Definitely was close. To me, just Strickland was just taking too many blows, bro. Like, yeah, too many heavy hits, and I think the bleeding also. Like, this guy was leaking. They both were leaking though, right? But Strickland was just bleeding everywhere. Like, it was.
I mean, Duplessis definitely looked like the fresher fighter at the end of it.
But he was definitely beat the hell up too, because that man was like struggling to walk out the arena.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, props to both of them. That was a good fight. Like I said, Duplessis has finished 19 out of his 20 fights. So the fact that this is the first one he didn't finish, or one of the first ones he didn't finish, I think that's also just props to Strickland. I remember telling Juan right before the fight started, I was like, put everything on Duplessis' money line. If you feeling more frisky, put it on Duplessis' decision. Because Duplessis, even though he can win by submission, Duplessis, you just got the feeling based on all the comments leading into the fight, Duplessis wanted to knock him out. And I just didn't think he was going to be able to knock out Strickland. I just didn't think that was going to be in the cards.
Nah, Strickland's too tough. He wasn't going to let himself get knocked out. The only way that was going to happen was if he was just caught slipping, which is possible, but I don't think that was going to happen. Anything else? That was pretty much the UFC main event. Anything else we should go over before we head on out?
I got nothing right now. I'm currently watching the college basketball lines. It's a little slow night tonight. Tomorrow should be a little fun. If you want to look at some fights, or not fights. If you want to look at some games tomorrow, I can give you some pointers, some ideas, something to play with, something to think about. Unfortunately, none of the lines are out yet. They kind of do those the day of. But something to look out for is going to be Duke versus Louisville. And honestly, Duke was a little disappointing in their loss over the weekend to Pitt at home. Louisville is just not a good team this year. If Duke goes into this game as under 10-point favorites, I think you slam it. I have no idea what they're going to open it at. I kind of would do Duke at. If I was a playmaker, I would do Duke probably by about minus 11.5, 12.5. So if for some reason they go below 10, I think I would take Duke. Minnesota, I do believe has a real chance to beat Wisconsin. I think Minnesota is just a better team at home. The only problem with Minnesota is they do have some injuries. If that guard does play, they're good. They're golden. Texas and Oklahoma, that is an over slam. If they give you that over at a nice low enough level, you slam that over. Honestly, if they give you Oklahoma spread at a nice enough level too, you take that as well. Texas is beatable. But the Big 12 is the best conference in my opinion, probably right now. So, moving down the board a little bit, what we have left of you got a golden one, in Houston versus BYU. If I'm a risky man, I know that BYU, they are exposable, and I think Houston is the team to do it. I think Houston's the team to take away that ranking from them for good. I would take Houston money line. It should be a BYU spread. If not, I think Houston's good up to -2.5, -2.5.
Okay. All good stuff right there. I think the only thing I have left, a little bit of news for my fellow Cincinnati fans. Brian Callahan is now the Titans head coach. So it looks like Mr. Taylor, will have to look for a new OC. We'll see what direction he tries to go. He calls plays, but it's definitely going to still need an OC to kind of organize things on the offensive side of the ball. And I think your Panthers hired a GM. I think it was the assistant, right? They hired him.
Yeah, Dan Morgan. He was the assistant, but he was also a linebacker for us. I think he's ranked 10th all time in tackles. He was assistant of football operations last season.
Yep.
I think it was a good move. Dan Morgan was also inside Seattle. He was also assistant director for Seattle as well. So he kind of has his foot in the door with two different programs. He knows the Panthers' winning mentality of back in the day. The first Super Bowl in 2003. He was a scout for the Seattle Seahawks during their football run in the playoffs in all those years. And so he's obviously been around winning football. Hopefully all these years of being around winning football, he knows who to bring in to win some football games.
All right, good stuff. I think question is, will he be free from the influence of your owner?
No one's
the big
ever
question.
free of that.
This is true. Pretty much that's it. We still have a bunch to go over on Wednesday. Well, we're gonna preview the championship games for Sunday, and then we'll probably throw in some NBA as well. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, we're going to let you guys go. MTL Sports Podcast, episode 68. Thank you for watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter. You know the deal. So with that being said, we will see you guys later this week. Peace.
Peace out.
Giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of